One of the essentials of citizenship is the presence of the creation and the preservation of a large middle class. This idea goes all the way back to Greece, where citizenship first developed, and they had a word for it, the mesoi, M-E-S-O-I. And in their way of thinking, you had to have the majority of citizens self-employed, independent, outspoken, and neither rich nor poor. The middle class alone were neither dependent on the state, nor did they emulate or did they envy the rich. And so these mesoi in the idealized Greek city-state were the citizens that showed up in the assembly hall. They were outside, and they had an equal seat on stone benches. That equality was reflected in the military sense by slots and the phalanx, that is, the armed squares of spearmen that fought the battles of the city-state. And finally, there was a third dimension of the middle class, and that was the agrarian grid outside the city-state. Most land was parceled, as it was during the Homestead Act of the United States, into 10-acre parcels. The citizen also had to be independent. They were in control of the laws. They made the laws, and they were not subject to coercion from the poor or the rich. There's another idea that comes from the ancient world that's important to remember, that something about being in charge of your own destiny combines the mental with the physical. And by that I mean, in the pre-industrial world, most people were farmers. So they would get up in the morning and they would prune vines, or they would have to plant olive trees, or in the spring they would cut grain or thresh it, but it was a constant physical job, but yet they were making decisions. It was a mental task. And to the Greeks, this combination of mental acuity and physical strength made the perfect balance. Now, we all can't be farmers today. Only 1% of the nation farms, but we have all of these tasks today. The independent trucker, think about it. He has to have endurance to get on that highway for 16, 17 hours, but yet he has to make the decisions. Which job shall I take? How much does diesel fuel cost? And the same thing holds true of the business person. If you work for a corporation, you make very important decisions, but the independent business person is responsible for his own destiny or her destiny, and one mistake can destroy their family. They're not a cog in a corporate wheel. So what I'm suggesting to you is, maybe we can't be all small farmers, or we can't be all middle-class small business people, but we need this group to be present, because without this present, you do not have these independent voices, and we don't combine the physical and the mental, and of people who take responsibility for themselves. Okay, so middle-class citizenship is crucial in the history of constitutional government. Unfortunately, in our generation, it's eroding, and we can see it erode in a variety of contexts. The first is, for 10 years, average wages of the middle class did not rise. 50% of the country dies with less than $10,000 in aggregate wealth. Over half of Americans die with credit card debt. Their buying options are limited. Their choices on how they live are limited. Their chances at home ownership decline simply because they owe a lot of debt. Nowhere is this more dramatic than in student loans. When the student graduates, the average loan is somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000. We have an entire generation of students that are graduating, often with therapeutic degrees, and are not able to find jobs that would allow them to pay off this enormous debt. If we came from Mars and we looked at this situation, we would just simply say you have tens of thousands of serfs or indentured servants. If they're not beholden to their credit cards, they're beholden to the federal government and the universities.